Hi everybody, and welcome to Lesson 3. Today we're going to be talking about color psychology, and this is the third lesson in our color theory from A to Z class. So if you have not watched lessons 1 and 2, I would really suggest that you do these in order because they all build upon each other. And it's important to understand all of these principles if you're really going to understand color theory. So let's get started. You may wonder why we would be looking at color psychology. What is it anyway? Well, color psychology is a research form that has looked into all of the colors, and they have found that each color in the spectrum actually causes different emotions or different feelings or different moods in people. So what does that mean for us? Well, in the bigger world, advertisers and marketing people all look at color theory and color psychology to sell their products. They do it for their logo designs, and we're going to be starting to look at some of those. But at the same time, painters and photographers and all types of artists also use color psychology to attract people to their paintings, to give them a message just from the color and not necessarily from the exact picture or the words, or it goes together to form a complete message. So why should we care about that as card makers? Well, we just need to be aware that every color has specific meanings and specific moods that it creates in the person who sees it. So we want to make sure that we match our colors to the types of cards that we want to send. Do we want to bring hope to someone? Do we want to bring compassion? Do we want to make somebody feel happy or silly? What is it that we're wanting to express, and what color might express that the best? So we need to just look at this as another tool in our toolbox for making our cards and designing them. It's not the only tool, but it's another part that adds to a card's total impact, just like any work of art or any photograph. And we're going to start looking at some of that as we look at each of these individual colors. Now, the one other caution that I want to say is that colors mean different things in different cultures. So around the world, different cultures have meanings that may be different from each other in terms of specific colors. And I can't possibly cover all of those individual meanings here in this class. So I will be discussing the meanings of the colors basically in the United States because that's what I'm familiar with. However, in your culture, you may be aware that one of these colors means something different, and you can apply that in your own card making. So let's start looking at these individual colors. The first one is red. Red is a very powerful color. I know when I was working, people would say, if you want to go to a meeting and you want to be seen as being authoritative, you need to wear red because it's a power color. Well, I don't usually wear red, and I never did that, but I do know other people that did. Red can be power, strength, and it also can be passion, both extreme passion in the area of love or in the area of anger. It can mean evil, it can mean warning, and it can have things to do with medicine because red is the color of blood. So red is a very, very important color, and it means a lot of things. Let's check out these logos for a minute and think about why these companies may have chosen red for their logos. Of course, the first few in the left all have to do with emergencies or warnings. Then we have Pizza Hut and KFC. Now, why would they, plus a lot of other fast food chains and other restaurants, pick red for their logos? Well, one reason could be that the research proves that red actually makes you hungry. Did you know that? Red can stimulate your appetite. So guess what? Lots of restaurants use red in their logos. And then, of course, we have the medical connection here with CVS and Red Cross and Walgreens Band-Aid. And we have companies that want to look powerful and important. So let's look at some images. How do these images make you feel? Remember, imagery does make you feel something. So when people look at your cards, they have emotions and feelings and moods stirred up in them. So here we look at the roses, and of course, red roses are passionate, and that's a meaning that everybody understands. So if you're going to send a card about love, red is a good color, isn't it? We all know that, basically. But what about the car here? Why is it that car manufacturers tend to use red on their powerful sports cars? Well, it's because they're powerful. They very rarely advertise family sedans in red. They'll put them in blue or another color, but why is it that they use red for sports cars? For that very reason, because red does symbolize power. And I chose this last painting on these examples for a couple reasons. One, of course, is that the artist chose red because this couple is embracing, and red is the color of love. So we can see that in this painting. But the other thing that we can see in this painting is that the red is the only real color in the painting, and the rest is toned down. Now, in one of our other lessons, when we discussed saturation, we talked about highly saturated colors draw your attention. And that's what this artist did. He used this highly saturated red to draw our attention to the girl in the umbrella and into the couple embracing, rather than to the Eiffel Tower or the other elements in the painting. So he did this on purpose to draw your eye there. So that's something that we need to think about when we have our cards. If we have a flower or something else, a little cartoon character or something else that is our focal point, we want to make sure that our eyes are drawn to that. And one of the ways to do that is to use that character, put that character in a highly saturated color. And of course, this artist chose red because of the romance element. So let's look at the next color. Blue. Blue is associated with water and sky, coolness, calm, serenity, safety, security, a lot of things like that. And guess what? Blue is the number one color when people around the world are asked what their favorite color is. Blue is the number one. And so it's the most often used for corporate logos, and they're particularly used for when they want to communicate that they are trustworthy and reliable. So when you look at these logos, you see social media companies like Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter all have blue logos. So do IBM and Intel. Financial institutions, American Express, banking a lot of times uses blue because they want to be seen as trustworthy. And of course, you have Blue Cross Blue Shield, which is a medical insurance company, and they want to be seen as trustworthy and friendly. So blue has this association of being calm and trustworthy and safe and those kinds of elements to it. So let's look at these images. What do you feel when you look at these images? Well, I can only say what I feel because in our workshop, when I had everybody contributing, we could share our feelings with each other and our emotions that we felt when we looked at pictures. And of course, in these lessons, it's just down to what I feel. When I look at these mountains, I see kind of mysterious feeling about that. And I think the blue really contributes to that feeling. It certainly wouldn't look good in red. And if you picked green, it would just look like regular mountains. But the blue, along with the haziness, just lent an aura of mystery to those mountains to me. And the second picture looks like cold. Now, have you ever thought about why it is when we make snowflake cards? Oftentimes, either we make them white sparkly or silver sparkly, but we oftentimes use a lot of blue on cards with snowflakes. And that's because the blue makes it seem cold. And that's one of the things that blue can mean when you look at it. So here we see that in this photo. Now the third one I chose because the artist made this man blue, and it shows another meaning that we use for blue is depressed or sad, because we can say, boy, today I'm feeling blue, meaning I'm feeling down. And this artist purposely chose to make this drawing, this portrait, blue for that very reason. He matched the colors that he chose to the tone or the mood that he wanted to convey in the art. So that's what I want us to see in this lesson, is we can think ahead of time. What are we wanting to convey in our card? And we can choose our colors based on that. So in the last one with the bathtub, that has a calming look, doesn't it? It has I just want to get in that bath and put my head back and just soak and just be at peace. And the artist used blue to evoke that response in the person who's going to be looking at his art. So you may never have thought of this before, but it really is true. Colors do impact us in different ways. Well, what's next? Yellow. Yellow is a happy color, isn't it? It's bright, it's cheerful, it's happy, it's fun, and it's also very bright. So it often isn't used in marketing as being the main color because it can overwhelm people if they see too much of it at once. So most of the time it's used as accent colors along with other things. But here we see in these logos, what do we have? Oh my goodness, why would McDonald's choose yellow to be the color of their golden arches? Well, because they want people to be happy when they're at McDonald's, and so do a lot of the food logos. Look at how many, and there's many, many more, mix yellow and red. Well, first of all, what did we say about red? We said it stimulates hunger, and yellow's happy. So hey, eat our food, eat our Lay's potato chips, and you are going to be, you are going to satisfy your hunger, and you're going to be one happy potato chip eater. I know that sounds silly, but it's really true. So let's look at some yellow images and see. Well, when I look at these flowers, I feel happy. I do. I feel cheerful. I look at those and I think, wow, that makes me feel bright when I look at it. But then why do you think the artist on the second picture, on all these silly things, decided to use yellow as the color for the entire piece, with the silly ukulele with the face and everything? Well, yeah, it's pretty obvious, isn't it? They used yellow because yellow signifies that kind of bubbly, cheerful happiness. And so this artist chose specifically to make it yellow. Now, in the third picture, I have no idea exactly what they're trying to say. Maybe, oh my goodness, eating these berries is going to make me so happy. But choosing the yellow nail polish was not an accident. Whatever this photographer wanted to convey in this picture, he wanted to say, this is a happy picture. This is a fun picture. These berries, whatever he's trying to communicate, it's a good experience. And so he chose yellow. And then I put this last picture in as another example of a photographer using a highly saturated single color to draw your eye to the main focal image of the picture. So everything else is kind of grayed down on this misty day, but where does your eye go? Straight to that yellow jacket. So think about that. And if you haven't looked at the other lesson that talks about saturation, you should go back and look at the other lessons, because we talk about the fact that that saturation draws people in, and your whole photo, picture, or card, whatever, should not all be highly saturated, because the person who's looking at it doesn't know where to look first. And you want to draw them, maybe you want to draw them to your sentiment. Maybe that's what you really want to say. I'm with you, keep going, whatever it might be. But if that's what happens and you want to have everything else kind of the background, and that message is what you want to get through, put that in the brightest, most saturated color, so that the eye of the person who receives your card will go straight to that. And that's all we want to convey here, is thinking about these things when you're designing your cards. So orange, well, look at the pictures here in the logos. There's a meaning of kind of safety and construction. That's why Home Depot has orange to go along with this construction vest and the cones. It has that meaning of having to do with construction or warning or highway safety. But orange is in our culture the least favorite color. We said that blue was the most favorite color of people who were surveyed. Orange is the least favorite color. But during our workshop, my friend Diane, who lives in the Netherlands, was telling all of us that in their country, orange is the most popular color. And the reason is because their king and queen originally came from the House of Orange. So their sports teams and all kinds of other things are orange because it's an important color in their culture. So once again, like I said in the beginning, in your culture, it might mean something different. So go with that versus what I'm saying here. But I can only give you what is present in my country, which is the United States. So what about these images? See, orange has a kind of funky feel to it. Of course, we use it for fall, don't we? With pumpkins and fall leaves. They're all orange. We use it to reflect nature. But it also has kind of a funky feeling to it. Look at these two middle photographs, these portraits. Why did the photographers, which are two different people, choose orange as the main color in these photographs? They're both kind of silly, crazy photographs, aren't they? And orange has a way of meaning unique or just funky different. It's kind of interesting that that is the case, but it is. And of course, the first picture, we know that orange can signify health because we have fruit and vegetables that are orange. And in the final picture, I wanted to show you again, instead of being grayed out like the other two that I showed you already, this photographer used the bright orange to draw your eyes to those flowers, and he made the rest of the room white. So he used a neutral color and just focused right on those flowers by making them a bright, highly saturated orange. So once again, wherever you look, you're going to see these examples now that we've talked about them. Whether you look in magazines or you look on TV commercials or whatever, it just is a different way of looking at things when you realize that colors have meanings. So what do we have next? Green. Well, green is pretty easy to figure out because it's a color of nature, isn't it? So when is the last time, or have you ever bought anything organic in the grocery store? Almost anything that's organic has a green label. And that's because it means nature, it means health, it means the environment, right? So like BP, the last logo on here, I read an article that said that BP actually chose this logo and made it green because even though they're an oil company, they wanted to subliminally tell everybody that they are aware of the environment and they don't want to be looked at as an oil company that doesn't care about the environment. So they purposely chose green. H&R Block, well, guess what? Green also means money, doesn't it? And Whole Foods, well, Whole Foods wants to advertise that they carry very healthy and organic food. And so it goes. It also means outside. So if you look at the other end of the logos, you've got the Forest Service, you've got John Deere, you've got Land Rover, which is a car. But what does that car do? It goes over hill and dale. It's four-wheel drive. It's an outdoor vehicle. It's meant to be in the great outdoors in the wilderness. And so they use green. Let's look at some images. Well, when I look at these images, the first two, both the photography and the Monet painting, I think peace. I feel tranquil. I feel calmness. And that's exactly what they were meant to achieve. Now, the third one, I feel the same way. Come on in, have a cup of coffee with me. It's very peaceful setting and very calm. I haven't been in many spas, but I have been in a few, and I've seen a lot of pictures of spas, and almost all of them have their walls painted like a sage green. That's not an accident because that color of green is very soothing, very calming. Just when you look at the lady in the sweater with the flowers, you get that same feeling. Not like a red sweater would be, or an orange sweater. You see the difference between this lady and the ladies that we just had the portraits of in the orange? Two totally different feelings of a woman in a portrait, because the photographers had different feelings that they wanted to bring up and different moods that they wanted to express. So they chose colors to represent those things. Hopefully you're getting the hang of this as we're going along. We've got just a few colors left. Well, there's purple, and purple is the traditional color of royalty, but it also can mean mystery and fantasy and femininity and sophistication. And purple is my favorite color, but it's a little bit difficult to describe how it's used in terms of art. This first picture is a fantasy picture, and sure enough, it's purple. There's these like starlights, and there's an owl flying, and it's kind of a fantasy world, and they made it purple. The second one is mysterious, isn't it? And it's purple. Then, of course, we have the natural look of purple in the next two floral ones, and the last one, well, I don't know who wears purple heart sunglasses, but it does look feminine, and it does look kind of sophisticated. So they chose purple for a reason. And we can look at that and think, okay, why did they choose purple? And make speculations about that. But you can be sure that none of these were accidental, that the art or the photographer accidentally made it purple. There's a reason. Of course, the flowers are already purple, but you know what I mean. Pink. Well, we all know that pink is the color that's used for femininity. And of course, pink, remember we learned in our other lessons that pink is not on the color wheel in terms of a main color or main hue. It is actually a tint of red, but pink is used all over the place just for being feminine. And so you can look at all these brands from Victoria's Secret, lingerie to Avon makeup, even Barbie dolls, pink, right? But I put up here, I read another research study and I thought it was so funny. They painted the ceilings in prisons, in men's prisons, different colors of paint on the ceilings. And when they painted the ceilings pastel pink, light pink, the level of violence went down in the prisons. Now, think about that. I think that's very fascinating. I don't know why that would be, but somehow surrounded by light pink made these felons be less violent. So, another little interesting trivia fact. Look at these pictures. How does this just make you feel when it flashes up on the screen? Oh my goodness. The first one, of course, is romance, and it's not as deep passion feeling as the red roses. It's just feminine and beautiful and touching. And then the flamingos, so beautiful. All that soft and the feathers and everything. Of course, flamingos are pink in nature, but think about if you saw that photo or that artwork and they made it orange or they made it lime green. Would you feel the same way about it? Probably not. That pink has a soft feeling to it that makes those feathers just look so beautiful. And then you've got the pink umbrellas, which just are happy and fun. And because it's a bright color, it brings out more of that happy feeling than the calm pastel pinks. And then who doesn't love a beautiful pink baby girl, right? Femininity and beauty. And then finally we have black. Now black is actually a lack of color, but it does represent a lot of things. It can represent everything from luxury to sophistication to elegance, but we also use black for mourning. And I put Metallica up here because it's also used for rebellion against the norms. So let's look at some black images. Luxury cars, sophisticated women. Even this drawing, I put that on here, this graphic, because it doesn't have to be photography. Look at the design of the swirls and everything. It's very sophisticated, elegant looking graphic. So they did it in blacks. And then, of course, we use black for mourning. So think about all these colors we've looked at. They all give us a different feeling. And when you look at art, check that out. Look on Pinterest and look up different colors and just put a color in there. And whether it brings up a room design or fashion or a logo or art, think about what it is that they all have in common that these artists or photographers or whatever wanted you to feel. And then when we make our cards, we think about those things. So let's review, right? We've been talking this whole lesson about color psychology. Why is it important? Well, like I said at the beginning, it's a tool in the toolbox. It's not the only tool. So it's not something that we need to focus on as being the only thing that is so important. But it's part of the picture, isn't it? It's part of the picture when we design a card. We want to think about these things. So that's why we want to look at it. What type of feelings do we want to evoke in the recipient of our card? And what kind of mood do we want the card to convey? That's important. And finally, think about your focal point. We looked at all those examples where there was highly saturated images that drew your eye to your focal point. So think about, what message do you want to give in that focal point? For instance, the couple on the red screen that were standing there, they used red because of red being romance, and there was a couple embracing, but they used a highly saturated red and made the rest of the picture kind of disappear so that your eye would be drawn straight to that couple. So think about that. How can I make my focal images pop off the page by using color? And that's what color psychology is all about. So next time we'll have our fourth and final lesson. I'm excited because I get to show you on screen. We're going to go around a lot of websites and I'm going to show you some fabulous sites that will help you choose your color palettes. So I'll see you then.